From a 10-time Grand Prix winner to a 7-time world champion, the 5-year rivalry between Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton might have finally come to an end. Here's why it took Bottas 5 years to accept who's the better F1 driver. Honestly, it's been pretty exhausting to say the least, and taking a trip down memory lane, the two were teammates back in 2017, right until 2021, making the team unbeatable in the F1 Constructors' Championship.
Sainz, and then there's a lock-up from behind George Russell. Lewis Hamilton goes around the outside and Sainz is spun round and is tagged.
On the one hand, you've got Hamilton, who won 4 out of 5 drivers' titles during that period. As for Bottas, his performance was pretty disappointing in comparison, after he only managed to finish a distant runner-up twice. In fact, he struggled to mount a serious title challenge, even when Mercedes was dominant in 2019 and 2020. As for the other years, all he could do was back up Hamilton as he fought for the title against Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen. Eventually, in 2022, George Russell stepped in to replace the Finn, but Mercedes wasn't really ruthless for the most part, because despite his performance, they waited to make sure he had a racing seat at Alfa Romeo. And now, when he looks back at his time at Mercedes, there's one harsh reality he just can't swallow. Hamilton was simply the better driver.
He's out in front. Lando Norris has a look at Lewis Hamilton. Around the outside, Fernando Alonso keeping Pierre Gasly.
In fact, in an interview with Finnish journalist Maria Vitola, he admitted that it wasn't until 2021 that he finally accepted the bitter truth. And with such a competitive nature, I gotta admit, that wasn't easy. Instead, how he could overtake the 7-time world champion and grab the next title.
Oh, it's disappointing for Fernando, but as they go through turn 6, 7, Lewis keeping out of trouble.
And that led to an exhausting 5 years, where even though he wanted to win everything right away, it just wouldn't happen. And in F1 2023, Bottas is set to enter his 2nd year at Alfa Romeo, alongside his teammate, Zhou Guanyu. On top of that, the team enjoyed its best finish since 2012, right after it finished 6th in the Constructors' Championship ahead of Aston Martin. Meanwhile, Alfa Romeo started off 2022 pretty strong with a few regular points finishes. But due to a lack of development and, of course, the poor reliability, he couldn't really make much out of it as the season went on. But with the new upcoming season, the team's got a couple of things planned for an epic start. They're counting on the mental reset and physical reset to fill up energy for the new season. They've got to achieve a lot more than they did. It's as simple as that. And if you ask Bottas, he already talked about how the team's making improvements for better points, better results, and a lot more. But if I'm being honest, from whatever I've seen on social media, it's pretty obvious that his move to the new team has brought out a much more relaxed and confident version of him. In fact, even Mercedes team boss Toto Wolff agreed to that. According to him, the shift to Alfa Romeo turned out to be in his favor, because the pressure at Mercedes was pretty burdensome.
This afternoon is to break the record for the most tracks won at by a single driver.
It's like getting out of some sort of pressure cooker, and I'm sure everyone can agree with me on this. No one wants to be a wingman. No, what's next for Bottas? If you're talking about winning races based on his form in 2022, I don't think that's happening anytime soon, at least not in the next 2 years or so. But I'm definitely gonna say that he's perfect to shepherd Sauber into the Audi era. As for Audi, the team's gonna be officially on track in 2026, and every single year from 2023 until then, the German car maker is gonna buy a bigger stake in the F1 outfit. By the end, their plan is to take majority control in 2026, and that's exactly why the Finn has the golden opportunity to grow with the team without being overshadowed by his world champion teammate. In fact, his years of experience at Mercedes are definitely going to help the team become future race winners. Now, as a 33-year-old, he's got a couple of seasons lined up ahead of him, some of which he'd love to race as an Audi driver. There's a lot he could still learn out there, and he's planning to stick around long enough. But a lot of fans thought he might have other plans. His love for the US might make him shift to other interesting categories. After all, they've got IndyCar and NASCAR, right? But he's been pretty transparent when it was about his career at F1. So while he hasn't ruled it out completely, he'd definitely love to see himself with Audi. And since that's a huge opportunity for Sauber, it could end up being a pretty interesting project too. On the other hand, there are quite a lot of things lined up for Hamilton as well. He's aiming for a record-breaking 8th World Championship title. Now, since his contract is going to be up as the next season wraps up, a lot of fans were expecting him to simply move toward retirement. After all, the last 2 title fights weren't too easy on him, right? And I can't forget the controversial Abu Dhabi Grand Prix back in 2021 when Red Bull's Max Verstappen swooped in with a win. If that wasn't enough, Daniel Ricciardo's McLaren contract ended a year earlier than expected, leaving him without a racing seat for 2023. So Wolff stepped in with a reserve driver role for the Aussie. Rumor has it, Ricciardo was supposed to stick around as a reserve driver long enough to replace Hamilton after his supposed retirement. But as soon as it made headlines, the 7-time world champion made it pretty clear that while he'd love to have the Honey Badger on the team, he's not leaving anytime soon. To top it off, Wolff and Hamilton have been negotiating a multi-year contract as they focus on a record-breaking 8th championship. It seems like they're not going to let Verstappen win another title fight, but that wasn't all. His teammate George Russell has been marking his place in Mercedes as well. After a pretty consistent and stellar performance throughout the 2022 season, he wrapped it up with the first win of his career. Yep, the one at Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Clearly, Mercedes is ready to compete in another exciting season with their talented drivers lineup. With Hamilton, they've got years of experience, titles, and of course, his drive for success. As for Russell, he brings youth and talent to the team as he gets ready to enter his second year as a Mercedes driver. And it definitely seems like the two have a solid relationship, which is crucial for any F1 team. After all, everyone saw what happened between Verstappen and Lando Norris in the 2022 season. And I gotta admit, Russell was pretty solid in an uninspired car throughout the season, and even stuck by the hard times when Hamilton was clearly frustrated. I mean, how would you expect him to react after the first winless season of his career anyway? Some even say that Russell is gonna come up as a pretty big challenge for Hamilton's top spot in the team soon enough, but it's gonna take a lot more than a Grand Prix victory if he wants to overtake the 7-time champion. As for Russell, he thinks differently. He's working together with his teammate to move the team forward, rather than spilling his competitive nature between them. Sure, there were a few issues with driver lineups in the past, but that was mostly because of the age difference, or at least that's what he said. That's it for this video. See you in the next one.